On December 18th, during the height of Iceland's latest eruption, an unexpected volcanic eruption occurred at another volcano in a similarly cold climate. This occurred in the United States Aleutian Islands, where at 10:31 p.m. local time, an explosion was detected at the Kanaga Volcano. While the explosion was not witnessed by anyone, this can largely be owed to the fact that it occurred in the dead of night. However, we know that an explosion occurred as was detected by local infrasound and seismic sensors. In all likelihood, what occurred was a small-scale phreatic eruption, which is essentially the volcanic equivalent of a steam explosion and did not eject any lava. It represented Kanaga's first eruption since 2012, but appeared to be an order of magnitude smaller than its prior eruption. Subsequently, as recently ejected flying ash and blocky volcanic rock combined with melting snow, a minor lahar was formed which slid down the northwestern slope of the volcano, reaching the ocean. A strong earthquake swarm occurred across the next 24 hours, indicating that some form of superheated gas and perhaps even shallow magma existed beneath Kanaga's central vent. While the number of earthquakes has decreased in the days since, current activity suggests that more explosions have about a 50% chance of occurring in the next few weeks to months. I say this because about half of Kanaga's recent eruptions have lasted less than 100 hours in length, while the other half have lasted 3 weeks or more in length. As a result of all this activity, Kanaga's alert level was raised from green to yellow, and it temporarily became the third actively erupting volcano in the United States after Great Sitkin 45 miles to the east and Shishaldin much further to the east-northeast. Yet, you might be wondering why Kanaga's alert level was only raised to yellow if we know for a fact that it recently erupted. Shouldn't it be at orange? My answer to this is that Kanaga would be if it was actively producing low-intensity ash emissions or lava flows. Yet, because it is merely once again only displaying greatly increased signs of unrest and is not erupting, its alert level remains at yellow. Kanaga as a whole is quite a fascinating and fairly remote volcano which, as we learn more about it, creates more questions than answers. For example, Kanaga's most prominent feature is a towering 1,500-foot-high sheer cliff which borders the current peak to the south and east. While it was once thought to represent a caldera, the lack of deposits suggesting that a large caldera-forming eruption occurred led to the realization that this feature was a landslide scarp. It formed when a preceding 2,300-meter or 7,545-foot-tall volcano completely collapsed to the north, where 25 cubic kilometers of that volcano traveled up to 22.9 miles to the north. Yet, we aren't exactly sure when this collapse occurred. I looked at a variety of sources and they provided broad estimates suggesting anywhere from 3,000 to 184,000 years ago. However, I will personally assume 11,000 years ago as the relevant date when this event occurred. This means that the highly scenic Kanaga volcano completely formed since then, growing at a high rate ever since. However, this central cone has never been observed to be the site of a major explosive eruption. And yet, 11 fairly thick ash layers dated between 11,000 and 800 years ago, primarily of an andesite to dacite composition, exist on the island, when Kanaga's main cone is only composed of basaltic andesite and andesite. I thus believe there is a mostly buried secondary vent complex on Kanaga's southeastern flank, which is now the site of 2 lava domes and a crater lake. I would be quite concerned of major regional effects if an eruption was to occur there, and not if an eruption occurs from Kanaga's summit. However, Kanaga's main cone eruptions can still be moderately explosive, even sending plumes of ash to a height of 20,000 or more feet. In other words, there is still a potential that Kanaga's next eruption, if one were to occur, could be even larger than the small December 18th event. Such a larger event could disrupt some regional air traffic. As a final note, I would like to thank my new patron Nathaniel Allen for supporting this channel.